Hello everyone, I hope you're having a fantastic weekend. Thank you for joining me. Now today I am going to be doing an unboxing for the My Monthly Hero October kit. It just came in the mail. I put my coat on, ran outside, grabbed it, and so we're going to open it together. I was so excited about this kit coming in. And so I wanted to show you what came in the kit. And then I figured while I was at it, I'm going to make my first 5 cards for part 1 of the 10 cards 1 kit using this kit. So let's unwrap this pretty little package of goodness. Okay, now the goodies. I'm going to take my little ribbon off here. This is like a light gray ribbon. It's a sheer ribbon that comes wrapped up in the kit. And then also in the kit you get, these are 5x7 decorative papers, really pretty. This one has like a silver shimmer to it in the pattern, and you get 2 sheets of that. And this paper, actually all of it almost has like a linen texture to it, so it's not cardstock. It's pretty unique decorative papers. And this little image looked fun with all the little embossing in it. And then you get 2 pieces of glitter papers. So you get those fun, fancy little pattern papers there. And then we also get this pen. This is a lacquer pen. And I'm assuming this is like glossy accents. Or even Nouveau Crystal Glaze. So you get a glossy pen here, which is nice. You can never have too much of that. And then you get some silver embossing powder. Love this. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's just beautiful. I think it might be a fine silver embossing powder, but it's gorgeous. Love that. So you get that, and then you also get a unicorn white ink cube, which is so nice. I'm going to show you what this looks like as well. I think the Hero Arts unicorn ink is probably my favorite white ink to use. But it stamps really pretty on your colored cardstock here. And that one was, the cube was, it's really juicy white ink cube too. So okay, now we're gonna look at the fun stamp set. Now for the stamp set you get a lot of images, a lot of scene building here. You can make a Santa with a sled and a reindeer. You got the workshop with the elves. You have a winter scene with Eskimos and igloos, a train station, village, toys, Christmas trees, and then sentiments abound. So then you also get coordinating dies. Now you get 3 fancy dies, and one of them here is a mountain background, which is lovely. And then you also get a few of the images. Not all of the images are you can die cut out. So I'm going to show you which ones you can die cut out. So we're just going to trim it down. You get the Mrs. Claus. And this looks like, this is Santa's sleigh. And then you get the little Santa and his reindeers, like the drop shadow there. Then you get another fancy die here. This one is actually like a tree background. Then you get the clock tower, which is so cute. And this one is a little Eskimo with the dog tray, with the dog trail, I guess. And then you get, this is like a building background scene. Really neat. We're going to flip those around so you can see them better. So those are your 3 fancy dies. And then you get the little gingerbread house. And then you get the larger house, which could be a train station or Santa's workshop, which is cute. And then you get the large Christmas tree. And then you get the little small house. And then you get Santa. So those are the dies that cut out the images. So not all of the images are able to die cut out, but that's okay because a lot of the images are small, so stamping would probably be best. But there's our die cuts. That's everything that comes in the kit, so we're going to jump in and get started. Now, since there were so many images, I thought I would do something a little bit different this time. Now, I'm taking my Tim Holtz stamp platform, and I'm going to take all the images that I want to color in, and I place them on a piece of Neenah Solar White Classic cardstock. Now, I cut my cardstock in half, and I'm going to use both pieces and just stamp the same images over and over. I'm going to color them in with my alcohol markers. So I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. Just going to stamp those images, and since there were so many, I have to restamp it. Just going to go over that again. A lot of scenes happening in this kit, so it's going to be so fun. So I colored all my images in, and then even the ones that I didn't have dies for, I cut out. Because this is a major scene building kit, and I just wanted to have extra. Now, we're going to start off with our card number 1. For card number 1, I'm taking these two fancy dies, the trees and then the mountains, and I'm going to run them through my die cut machine. Now this is Bristol Smooth, Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, because I'm going to do a little bit of embossing. And then I have this regular white cardstock panel. This is a frame die from MFT, and I love this, and I thought it'd be perfect to make a scene. So I'm going to run a piece of white cardstock through my die cut machine and cut that frame out. Now once I have that done, I'm also going to cut out a circle that'll fit the background of that frame using that specialty paper, the glitter paper. Okay, so that's ready to go. Now we're going to do some embossing here. Actually, not distressing, we should say. Okay. Love that little tree. This is just like a winter tree, so I decided to place it on my little block, and using my anti-static powder tool, I ran it over the bottom part of that tree background, and using my Versamark ink, I'm going to stamp that multiple times right over that tree scene. And then I'm going to emboss it with the silver embossing powder that came in the kit, and I think that adds a nice little accent to the background. Next, I'm going to take, this is Ice Spruce. It's a very light gray Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to shade in the mountains very lightly. I'm going to remove that top piece, just to give those mountains a little bit of color. I'm just going to take my paper trimmer and trim that down. Lovely. Now I'm going to take, this is actually a snow marker. Love this. And what you do is you just draw wherever you'd like it to be. And I want this snow marker to be on the mountaintops. And then what you do is you heat set it, and then it puffies up. I love this for Christmas stockings and for just snow elements. And so here you can see how it puffies up. So I'll leave a link below if I remember where you can find it. But this is great for your Christmas cards. Love the way that looks, and it adds a lot of dimension. Okay, just trying to figure out how I'm going to place my little scene here. Using my tape runner, I'm going to adhere the mountains to the background of this glitter paper here. And then I just trimmed off the excess. And then next I am going to add my little tree scene, but I want my tree scene to have a little bit of dimension, so I'm going to place that on the frame because I want to end up adding some foam tape behind there just to pop it up. I'm going to remove the backing off of there and just place that frame on my little scene. Lovely. Love the shimmer. Okay, next I'm going to take the specialty paper, and using a stitched rectangle die, I'm going to run that through my die cut machine, and I'm going to adhere that directly on my card base. Now I do want to let you guys know that if you use washi tape on the specialty paper, it'll peel off the pattern on it. So I would suggest the Post-it tape, a really mild, if you're going to secure it to your die, I think you should use a real mild tape. Okay, now I thought it'd be fun to kind of turn this into a little ornament. So I'm taking the twine that came, or the ribbon that came in the kit. Using a glue dot, I'm going to secure it behind that circle frame. And I'm just going to lift this back pattern up and then tuck it right behind. Lovely. Next I'm going to take the ribbon and tie a little bow. And then for a splash of color, I'm taking one of the trees that I stamped and colored in and placing that on my little seam there. For this sentiment, I'm choosing the sentiment that says, "'Tis the season." I'm going to use some Versamark ink, and then I'm going to go in with that silver embossing powder. I trimmed it down using a sentiment die from MFT, and I'm just going to pop that up, place it on my little seam there, right in the bottom. Lovely. I'm going to attach my bow with a glue dot, and then for a little bit more color, I had colored in the little holly berry. It's the leaf and the little holly berries. I cut out 2 of them. Colored them in, and I'm going to adhere those just to the right of my sentiment. Add a little bit more splash of color. And that's it. That's card number 1. Oh no, I did go in with the lacquer, and I'm adding it to the Christmas bulbs on the tree in the center of the holly berries. And then just to tie everything together, especially with the colored in tree, I'm adding some of my silver stickles. And that's it. I think it turned out very pretty. Okay, now we're going to move on to card number 2. For card number 2, I'm going to use this city background, or village background. I think it's a little more quaint than a city. And then I'm going to color it in with some hickory smoke and some black soot. I started in with the hickory smoke and then ended up adding more of the black soot just to give it a real, like a night background. And then I'm topping the edges of that little city village with a unicorn ink. We want our village for this card to have lots of snow. And I would recommend you not doing that because the Distress Oxide ink actually got on my unicorn white ink pad. Yes. So I would maybe try a different method if doing this. I wanted a colorful background for this card, so I used 3 different colors of Distress ink: Worn Lipstick, Wild Honey, and then Peacock Feathers. I trimmed it down so it would fit my frame. I cut out a frame with white cardstock. And then I'm just going to go ahead and adhere my background city there. Village. Okay. Now once we have that done, I want to stamp my sentiment. For this card, I chose It's Christmas Time. And for this one, I wanted it to stand out, so I just used my white, Simply White embossing powder by Nuvo, Versamark ink. I heat set that, and then I popped my little window frame up with some foam tape. So now we have a little bit of dimension. Now we're going to build our scene. I'm going to add the larger Santa's Workshop / train station, the larger house, and then I just built up my scene. I had the smaller house, 2 of the Christmas carols, the clock tower, and then also the Santa and the sled that was in the background there. I'm just placing that on a standard A2 size card base, and then for a little bit of dimension, I added some of that lacquer to the rooftops. Now I wanted a little bit more color, so I ended up spraying it with my Sparkle Shimmer Mist, so it has a little sparkle to it. Now we're going to jump into card number 3. For card number 3, I wanted to make a card with a tag. So I cut out a tag with a die from my stash. So we have that there. Now for the background, I wanted a scene here, so I cut out using some Bristol Smooth cardstock. This is great for distress blending. I'm just going in with not sure what color green that is, but a green Distress Oxide ink. And I'm just doing partial of this panel because I only need a little bit. I want to cover the tag with it. I'm going to add some water to activate it. That green was called peeled paint. Sorry. Okay. Now I'm just gonna, I used the die because I want the stitch edging on the side. I think it always gives a finished look, so I just ran that piece through my die cut machine. Now, next, there's itty bitty snowflakes in there, and I thought it'd be fun to add some snowflakes in the background. So using that unicorn ink, I'm just gonna ink up that little trio of snowflakes and stamp all over that background there. Okay, now this pattern paper was fun. So I wanted this to be like the snowy bottom of my tag. So I'm just going to cut out a little piece, and then just using my scissors, I'm going to create like a snowbank. Just kind of just swirling the paper there. Lovely. And again, I'm going to put my die on top of that. That way the bottom and the sides have a very finished edge. And I love the way that looks. I think that pattern paper adds so much dimension. Now we're going to build our scene. I'm going to use another one of those Christmas trees. I did add dimensional adhesive behind it. And then I wanted this scene to have a reindeer with Santa's sleigh, and then Mr. and Mrs. Claus on there too. So that's my little scene. So cute. Love that. Now for the top of the tag, I have some red and white baker's twine. I'm going to add that, but we need a sentiment. So for this sentiment, I chose the sentiment that says, greetings from the North Pole. I'm just using my VersaFine ink to stamp it right on top. Lovely. I'm going to thread that baker's twine through the top. I just doubled it up. Gather at the center, pull it through, and then trim it down just a little bit. Now I'm going to place this on my white card base, but I thought it looked too plain. So for my stash, I have this. This is a older die from C&CT, but I like the pattern on it, so I'm going to run that through. And after I ran it through, it kind of looked like a sweater. I kind of like that pattern, or North Pole bars, I guess you could say. So ran that through and then popped up my little tag, and I'm going to place it just to the right of the card. And you would be amazed just how much a little bit of an embossing folder adds. I did add little dots of silver stickles, and that's it for that card. Now for card number 4, I'm using some peacock feathers on some Bristol Smooth cardstock. And I am going to do a little bit of shading here. I'm going to just shade the background. I'm not worried about the edges or anything. For this scene, I just wanted a blue background. I'm going to activate that. Lovely. Okay, so that's going to be my background. Now I'm going to go in. Let's see, I'm going to be using some peeled paint here, and I'm going to just run that Distress Oxide ink through the bottom of the panel, and then for the top I'm going to shade in using my ice spruce. The ice spruce will have the mountain background, and then the peeled paint will have the tree background. And sorry about that. I just added some water to activate the ink there, and then I'm just going to place those fancy dies on those colors, and then I want to die cut those out. Okay, so those are our background pieces. Now I cut out a circle in a piece of white cardstock and then used a stitched rectangle die to cut out the outside panel of it. And I wanted to make sure that that background piece would fit right behind that circle. And then now we're going to build our scene. I'm going to place the mountains in the back, and then I am going to add the trees. Now I'm just using my tape runner to secure both down. Now I lost a little bit of footage in this when I built the scene of this card, but I added the train station, and then I also added a few of the little elves, and then another tree, just to fill in the background. I used a pencil to draw a circle where my frame would be, and then that way I would know where to place it. Now I picked this up from Walmart. This is like little snow. The camera's really making it shine, but it's actually more whiter than the colors it's showing. I made a shaker out of this card, so I just added foam tape, and then added some of that. It's not really glitter, but I guess it's like a snowflake stuff. But it really adds a lot of color and dimension. Now we need a sentiment. For the sentiment for this card, I chose Happy Holidays, and then I added elves at work. So I'm going in with my red ink and stamping Happy Holidays, and then I'm going to remove that, and then I'm going to add elves at work, but I'm going to use a different color. I wanted to use a green, so I'm going in with my green ink and then just stamping the second part of the sentiment. I'm going to fishtail the end here. Lovely. And that's going to go right on the bottom. Now I'm just going to adhere this to my card base. For this, again, I'm using my white card base. I'm going to place that right in the center. And I'm sorry about the glare, but just to make this card a little bit more colorful, I'm going in with some red and white baker's twine, and I added glue all around my circle there, and I'm just placing my baker's twine all around it. And I wanted to make sure that the ends met up to where I was going to put the sentiment. That way they're able to hide. But I think that looks so fun. Next I'm going to pop up my sentiment. Just going to use some dimensional adhesive here. Then I'm going to place my sentiment right over the seam that I created. Lovely. And then for an added touch, I'm doubling up on that baker's twine, and I'm going to tie a bow, and just using a glue dot, I'm going to secure it to the top part of that card. And that's it for that card. Love the way that turned out. And for close-up pictures too, guys, if you want to visit my blog, you'll be able to see the detail a little bit more. I just lost the footage on my little scene there. Sorry about that. Okay, now for our final card for part 1, this is a dome die, stitch dome die from MFT, and so I cut out the frame. I'm going to leave that white, but I love the stitching on it. And then I'm also going to use the background there. Now I'm taking a piece of black cardstock, and I'm going to cut out the city or the village background. Lovely. And then I thought that this is going to need a little bit of color, so I'm going in with some Distress Oxide ink, just a little dab here and there, creating my background sky. And this is Broken China. I'm just going to place, that's going to be where it's going to be placed. I'm going to use my tape runner to secure it down, but before I do that, I'm going to add some of that unicorn ink to the rooftops and to the edges of my little village there. Then I'm going to secure that there. Lovely. Okay, now I wanted to use some more of this. This is real pretty silver glitter paper. And so I'm just creating another snowbank. I just use my scissors to kind of create a little bit of a wave. And I'm going to adhere that just below my little village background there. And then I'm going to go in with some white cardstock and do the exact same thing. But for this piece, I'm going to add it to the frame on top. That way I have a little bit of dimension here. So just using my tape runner, I'm going to secure that bank to my frame. Just figuring out my placement here. Now for this card, I thought it'd be fun to use the choo-choo train. And so I'm going to grab the little train track down there on the bottom, and just using my VersaFine ink, I'm going to stamp that train track right in the bottom of that snowbank there. I'm just using my VersaFine ink, and it fit perfectly in there. I was so happy with that. Okay, once that's done, we're going to build our little scene. So here's my little, I did cut out, fussy cut out 2 of the little trees, and then I'm going to add the little the train engine there, and then the 4 little box cars. And I'm popping them up with some dimensional adhesive as well. Just arranging them on my little train track there. Cute. Okay. Now I'm going to add some foam tape behind this little panel. Lovely. Now before we adhere that, I'm going to add my sentiment. Now for this sentiment, I chose Merry Christmas. And I wanted to use the silver embossing powder for this sentiment. So I went over with my anti-static powder tool, and then using my Versamark ink, I'm going to stamp the Merry Christmas right on my blue sky background there. Lovely. I'm going to add that embossing powder, and then I'm just going to heat set it and melt it. And there's our sentiment. Very pretty. Now again, I'm going to be using a white card base, and I'm going to adhere my background piece. This card's going to be a side folding card, and so I'm going to place that in the center. Lovely. Peel off the backing of my foam tape, and then I'm going to place my frame right on top of my scene. Lovely. And then just for a little bit more splash of the color, I'm going to add those 2 little trees that I colored in and fussy cut out. And that's card number 5. This kit is so fun, and so many fun scenes that you could do. So here's a quick look at all 5 cards that I made today. I hope this inspires you. Get your Christmas mojo going. I appreciate you stopping by. If you like this tutorial, give me a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I wish you a fantastic day, guys. And we'll see you again for part 2 really soon. Bye-bye.